stay right there.
All Rocky cared about was getting her younger sister out of their broken home and moving both of them to California, no matter what it took. The problem was money, which is why she'd spent months hitting houses alongside her boyfriend Money and her friend Alex. They had a smooth system because Alex's father was a technician at a private security firm, giving Alex access to key cards and passcodes for half the rich neighborhoods in the city. But Alex ran a tight ship. He had a strict rule to keep every job under 10 grand, so nobody faced real felony time. While cleaning out their latest house, Money tried to grab a laptop full of personal family photos, but Alex shut him down immediately. Once they made their getaway, Alex quietly asked Rocky when she was planning to come back from California, only for her to look him in the eye and say she wasn't ever coming back. Crushed by her answer, Alex headed home, slipped into his father's office, and secretly dropped the stolen key back into the security company drawer. Meanwhile, Money went to meet his buyer to trade off what they'd taken, but ended up furious when he was handed barely anything for a solid gold Rolex. The buyer just laughed at him, explaining that stolen watches were worthless on the street, and told him that if he wanted life-changing cash, he had to actually steal cash. That's when the buyer pulled out a phone and pointed Money toward a run-down, isolated house in a forgotten corner of the city. The next day at a diner, Money laid out the plan. The house belonged to a blind war veteran living by himself who had been given a massive cash payout after a wealthy young woman killed his daughter in a car wreck. Money was positive the money was sitting right inside the house, but Alex refused to hear it. Taking that much cash meant feds, heavy police investigations, and a 10-year sentence that would burn his father's career to the ground. Even after Money mocked him, Alex picked up his coat and walked out. Later that night in his room, Alex stared at a text message from Rocky, begging him to pull off the job so she could save her sister from their mother. Unable to turn his back on her, Alex brought up the news story on his computer and read through the details of the veteran's tragic loss. Seeing that this was Rocky's only way out, Alex gave in and decided to go through with it. At home, Rocky's mother sat on the couch smoking and demanding money for food, knowing Rocky had been bringing in cash. Rocky ignored her, turning her focus entirely to her little sister Drika. When Drika mentioned wanting to go to the beach and learn to surf, Rocky gently reminded her that Michigan didn't have ocean waves, but promised her that things were about to change. Right then, a text flashed on Rocky's phone from Alex, saying he was in. Smiling, Rocky leaned down and told Drika they were going to California. Later, as Money drove them out to the target neighborhood, Alex sat in the back watching Rocky. He made up his mind right there, telling her that if they pulled this off and got the money, he was coming to California with them. Rocky smiled back, telling him she already knew he would. They pulled up to Buena Vista Street, an eerie ghost town filled with decaying, overgrown properties. Money pulled up a surveillance video on his phone, pointing out that nobody lived on the surrounding blocks, which meant no police patrols anywhere nearby. He explained that the owner hadn't left the house in 5 days, so the plan was to sneak in while he slept and drop a chloro bomb to keep him out cold. Right as they were discussing it, a massive Rottweiler slammed against the car window, barking aggressively inches from Rocky's face and startling everyone inside. A sharp whistle rang out down the block, calling the dog back. Looking down the street, they saw the owner, a heavily built man walking with a cane. As they watched him move, Rocky realized the man was blind. Alex mentioned he'd lost his sight serving in Iraq, admitting it felt pretty wrong to rob a blind veteran. But Money dismissed it, arguing that being blind didn't make the guy a saint, and set the job for that exact night. At 2 in the morning, the trio crept through the weeds toward the dark house. To handle the Rottweiler, Rocky tossed a piece of sleeping pill-laced jerky over the fence, and within moments, the dog swallowed it and passed out. Money climbed over the fence, and they moved up to the back doors. Alex used his father's master key, but even though the lock turned, the door refused to budge. Peeking through the gap, Alex realized the door was heavy bolted from the inside. Money rushed over to the storm cellar doors on the side of the house, but when he tried to pull them open, he felt a solid metal bar locking them down from beneath. When prying at the cellar door with a bar got them nowhere, Alex told Money to give up before he made too much noise. Looking up at the side of the house, Rocky spotted a small, unbarred bathroom window high up on the wall and realized she could squeeze through it. Alex didn't like the idea of her going inside by herself, but Rocky didn't leave him a choice. She stripped off her heavy coat, had the guys boost her up, and broke out a glass pane to unlock the window latch. The second the window opened, a motion sensor inside triggered a 30-second countdown on the house alarm. Rocky wriggled through the tight frame, dropped down into the dark bathroom, and scrambled out into the hallway. With the seconds ticking away, she rushed through the dark house, looking for the keypad. Just before the alarm exploded and alerted the neighborhood, she aimed Alex's remote device directly at the panel, successfully overriding the system and shutting it off. Rocky slipped over to the back door and unlocked it for the guys. After taking off their shoes so their footsteps wouldn't carry through the floorboards, all three padded quietly into the kitchen. They split up to look for the cash, with Money taking the stairs to check the second floor, while Alex and Rocky searched the rooms below. Upstairs, Money tiptoed into a dark bedroom, where a television was playing an old home video of a young girl. Under the covers on the bed, the blind veteran was sound asleep. Money pulled out a bottle filled with chloroform green gas, planning to knock the man out cold. But when Money flicked his Zippo lighter to ignite the wick, the sharp metallic click echoed through the quiet room. The sudden noise snapped the veteran awake. He sat straight up in bed, his scarred, blind eyes staring directly in Money's direction as he listened for any movement in the dark. Money froze where he stood, holding his breath as the green gas began to leak into the room. After leaving the sleeping gas venting upstairs, Money crept back down to the ground floor to regroup with Rocky and Alex. Searching through the main living area, he came across a heavily reinforced door secured with a solid slide bolt and padlock. Convinced that the veteran's cash was hidden behind it, Money pulled out a pry bar and tried to force the lock open, but the heavy steel wouldn't budge. Frustrated, Money pulled a massive revolver out of his jacket. Alex immediately panicked, asking why on earth he brought a weapon to a robbery when he'd never even fired one before. Alex warned him that bringing a gun meant giving the homeowner legal grounds to use deadly force, but Money ignored the warning, aimed straight at the lock, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot blasted the door open, but it also echoed right through the house. Upstairs, the blast instantly jarred the blind man awake. He rushed downstairs into the hallway, asking who was in his house. Money and Rocky froze, holding their breath in the dark. But as the veteran shuffled forward in his bare feet, his toes stepped directly on the shattered lock lying on the floor, making him realize his secure door had been breached. Panicking, Money raised the gun, cocked it, and screamed at the man to stop moving, or he'd shoot. But the veteran didn't flinch. Instead, he marched straight toward the sound of Money's voice. Before Money could react, the blind man lunged forward, grabbed the gun with uncanny speed, and wrestled it out of Money's hands. The veteran grabbed Money by the throat with a vice-like grip, pinning him against the wall and choking the life out of him. Terrified, Money gasped for air, begging for his life and swearing he was in the house alone to protect the other two. The blind man cold-bloodedly asked how many intruders were inside, then forced the gun barrel under Money's chin and pulled the trigger. The gunshot blew Money's head open, dropping his lifeless body onto the floor, while Rocky watched in absolute terror, clutching her face to keep from screaming. Standing just feet away from Money's body, the blind man looted the dead boy's pockets for extra bullets. Rocky was hiding inside a walk-in coat closet, right beside them, clamping her gloved hands over her mouth, and, in pure terror, while trying not to make a single sound. After the veteran vented his rage on the doorway and walked out, Alex tried to sneak toward the back exit, but before he could make a move, the veteran stepped back inside, locked the rear exit with a heavy padlock, and trapped them both in the house. Alex ducked into the bathroom to hide, squeezing into a narrow gap between the wall and a cabinet. Back in the living room, the veteran walked directly into the closet where Rocky was hiding. Crouching in the dark, Rocky held her breath as the man reached for the back wall, pulled away a hidden panel, and revealed a concealed electronic safe. Rocky watched in total silence as he typed in the code 2978 and opened the safe door, revealing massive stacks of cash. He checked the money with his hands, locked the safe back up, and walked out. Meanwhile, Alex was in the bathroom, trying to call 911, when a text from Rocky flashed on his screen, telling him that money had been shot. Alex quickly messaged back to make sure she was okay and asked where she was hiding. Once she texted back that she was in the closet, Alex slipped out of the bathroom, tiptoed past Money's corpse in the living room, and squeezed into the closet to reach her. Alex tried to calm Rocky down, telling her they needed to call the police before the veteran realized they were still inside. But Rocky shook her head and revealed that she'd found the money. Moving to the back wall, she pulled away the panel, punched in the 2978 combination she'd just memorized, and opened the safe door. Alex watched in disbelief as Rocky unzipped her bag and began stuffing hundreds of thousands of dollars into her backpack, determined not to leave empty-handed. Seeing the massive stack of cash in Rocky's backpack, Alex warned her that stealing nearly $1 million would turn a minor break-in into a federal investigation. But Rocky was set on keeping it. Since the house's main doors were locked solid, Alex pointed out that their best chance of escape was the storm cellar in the backyard, which had a metal bar bolted from the inside that they could undo from below. Before they could move, heavy metal clanking echoed right outside the closet. They watched through the cracked door as the blind man emerged from a hidden trap door right in the living room floor. The veteran covered the hatch with wood planks, walked over to Money's corpse, and dragged the dead body away toward the kitchen. But as Alex shifted his weight backward, the floorboard let out a sharp creak. The veteran instantly dropped the corpse, pulled out his handgun, and aimed the barrel straight toward where Alex and Rocky stood frozen in fear. Neither of them made a sound, but suddenly, Money's cell phone on the floor began ringing. Reacting to the noise, the veteran fired his weapon directly at the phone, blasting it to pieces. Believing the noise was an isolated distraction, the veteran resumed hauling Money's body toward the kitchen. Watching him move the body, Alex and Rocky realized the trap door led down into a full basement, meaning it connected directly to the storm cellar outside. Rocky went down the ladder first, and Alex followed right behind, pulling the hatch closed over their heads. Once they hit the concrete basement floor, Alex clicked his phone screen on to cut through the darkness. Upstairs, the blind man noticed something on the floor, a pair of small sneakers. Feeling the shoes with his hands and sniffing the air, he instantly realized Money hadn't been alone and that more intruders were still hiding inside his house. At the same time, deep in the basement, Alex and Rocky stumbled into a secluded, hidden room. Shining their phone light into the dark, they jumped when a hand reached through a set of metal bars. Inside a padded, soundproofed cell, a young woman was held captive, her wrists handcuffed and her face covered in a bizarre white plastic mask sealed around her mouth. She reached out through the bars, muffledly begging them for help. Rocky moved closer and asked the girl who she was. The captive whimpered her name, Cindy. Looking through a nearby stack of papers, Rocky found a newspaper article with Cindy's face on it, showing that she was Cindy Roberts, the wealthy heiress who had run over the veteran's daughter years ago and walked away without jail time. Rocky realized the blind man had kidnapped the heiress to get his own twisted revenge, and she told Alex they couldn't leave her behind. Alex wanted to get out first and report it to the police, but Rocky refused to leave Cindy at the man's mercy. Cindy pointed toward a shelf, where Alex found a wooden box containing a set of keys. Rocky quickly unlocked the handcuffs around Cindy's wrists, while Alex frantically tried key after key in the padlock on the cell door. Just as they heard the heavy creak of the veteran descending the basement stairs, Alex found the right key, unlocked the cage, and pulled Cindy out into the hallway to make a run for the storm cellar. Alex made it over to the storm cellar exit first, and climbed up the wooden steps to slide the heavy metal bar back. But when he reached the top, he realized there was a padlock holding the doors shut from the inside too. He quickly pulled out his dad's key ring, found the matching key, and got the lock open. But right as he went to push the cellar doors open, someone pulled them open from the outside. The blind man was standing right above them in the backyard, framing the doorway with a gun aimed straight down into the cellar. Rocky let out a scream, and the moment the blind man heard her voice, he adjusted his aim and fired twice into the dark. The first bullet clipped Alex's ear, but the second shot caught Cindy right in the face. She dropped straight onto the concrete, dead. The blind man kept firing into the room, forcing Alex and Rocky to scatter back into the maze of shelves. They scrambled up the ladder and climbed back through the trapdoor into the living room. Just as they reached the main floor, they saw the Rottweiler standing in the doorway. The sleeping pill had worn off, and the dog was glaring at them with a rabid growl, with their escape route blocked. Alex handed the keys over to Rocky, telling her to try the blue key on the front door locks while he handled the animal. Gripping a crowbar, Alex stepped between Rocky and the dog, trying to keep his voice calm and talk the snarling Rottweiler down while Rocky frantically worked on the locks. The second the Rottweiler lunged, Alex used his crowbar to fend the animal off and screamed at Rocky to run for the stairs. They scrambled up to the second floor with the dog right on their heels, ducked into an upstairs bedroom, and slammed the door shut. Alex pulled out the security remote, explaining to Rocky that if he pressed the panic button within range, the system would automatically call 911. Rocky freaked out, terrified that calling the cops meant going to prison. Spotting an air vent near the ceiling, Alex cut the argument short, pried the grate off, and hoisted Rocky up into the dusty ductwork. She unstrapped her heavy backpack full of cash and pushed it ahead of her as she crawled into the narrow tunnel. Alex tried to pull himself into the vent right behind her, but the Rottweiler broke through the door and leaped into the air, clamping its jaws onto Alex's leg and dragging him back down. As Alex fought the dog off on the floor, the blind man appeared at a window above, aimed his gun down at the sound of the struggle, and fired straight through the glass skylight. The gunshot shattered the pane, sending Alex crashing 15 feet down through the skylight and slamming brutally onto the kitchen floor below. Lying in a pile of shattered glass on the kitchen floor, Alex slowly regained consciousness, bleeding from his head, but still breathing. Alex managed to haul himself off the floor, spotted Money's revolver lying nearby, and limped into the adjacent laundry room to take cover. Alex squeezed behind the appliances and tried to hold his breath, but his heavy gasping gave him away. The veteran swung the hammer, and a brutal brawl erupted in the tight space. Alex tried to reach for Money's gun on the floor, but the veteran was too strong. He tackled Alex to the ground, wrapped his arm around Alex's neck in a tight chokehold, and squeezed until Alex went completely limp and lost consciousness. Up inside the ventilation crawl space, Rocky heard the violent struggle below and knew she had to move fast, pushing forward until she spotted a metal grate at the end of the vent leading outside. At the end of the vent, Rocky kicked at the metal grate with all her strength, finally busting the frame loose. But just as she was about to drop down into the yard, a hand reached up into the opening, grabbed her by the hair, and yanked her backward into the house. The blind man slammed Rocky onto the floor, dragged her back down to the hidden basement cell, and bound her tightly in a harness. Meanwhile, back in the laundry room, Alex opened his eyes on the floor. Stepping out of the laundry room with the hammer in hand, Alex barely had time to react before the Rottweiler came sprinting down the hall. Alex ducked back inside, slammed the door shut, and bolted it just in time as the dog slammed against the wood. Down in the basement cell, the situation turned into a complete nightmare. The blind veteran heated a frozen vial of his own sperm in boiling water and filled a turkey baster, telling a terrified Rocky that since Cindy was dead, Rocky would carry his new child for 9 months before being released, bound helplessly in the harness. Just as the veteran leaned in to force the baster on her, Alex burst into the room and smashed the hammer straight into the man's jaw. The veteran collapsed onto the floor, bleeding. Alex grabbed a knife from the table, sliced through Rocky's harness straps, and pulled her free. The moment she was loose, Rocky snapped, kicking and beating the veteran on the floor in a fit of rage until Alex pulled her off. Alex grabbed a pair of handcuffs lying nearby, cuffed the veteran's wrist to a metal pipe, and locked him down. Rocky wanted to call the cops on him, but Alex made her realize that if they took the $1 million, they couldn't involve the police. Rocky grabbed her cash-filled backpack, and they raced upstairs to the front door, where Alex began trying his dad's keys on the final locks. Right as Alex got the final lock open, a gunshot cracked through the living room. The bullet hit Alex straight in the head, dropping him instantly to the floor. Rocky screamed in terror, grabbed her backpack full of money, and bolted out the front door into the morning light. Rocky sprinted down the middle of the empty street, screaming for help, but nobody was around in the abandoned neighborhood. Looking over her shoulder, she saw the blind man standing on his porch, and a second later, the Rottweiler came charging out of the house right after her. She raced across yellowed lawns, scaled a wooden fence, and ran as fast as she could toward Money's parked car in an overgrown lot. Just as she reached the car, the Rottweiler caught up and tackled her against the driver's side door. Rocky grabbed a cargo strap with a metal hook, snapped it onto the dog's collar, and shoved the animal back into the rear seat compartment. With the dog finally trapped, Rocky opened the driver's door and collapsed onto the pavement outside for air. As Rocky lay on the pavement trying to catch her breath, the blind man suddenly ambushed her from behind, grabbed her by the hair, and dragged her right back into the house. He slammed the front door, locked all 4 deadbolts, and threw her onto the floor. Alex had held onto the security remote for her. Rocky slid the device out of his grip and slammed her thumb onto the panic button. The house alarm exploded into a deafening siren, blasting high-pitched noise across the rooms. Rocky grabbed a heavy glass ball off the floor, stood up, and cracked it straight into the man's head. The force knocked him backward, sending him tumbling down through the open trapdoor into the basement. Rocky peeked down into the cellar and saw him lying completely still on the concrete floor, impaled on his own weapon. She slammed the trapdoor shut, sealing him in the dark, grabbed her backpack full of cash, and unlocked the front door to escape just as police sirens echoed down the street.